If you're into GPPs, then you're gonna love this video. These are my Week 8 NFL DFS picks. What's going on, fantasy football fans? I'm your host, Hussein the Brain, and you're watching the couch. Let's jump right into the picks. For quarterbacks, I think everyone's top 2 ranked quarterbacks for the main slate is going to be Russell Wilson going against the Falcons. Now, I don't think they'll throw the ball a ton. This is going to be a Chris Carson type of game, but doesn't mean that Russell Wilson won't ball out. He's going to have to rely on those big plays, Metcalf, Lockett, touchdown plays, 40-plus yard throws, maybe a little bit of running. Hard to predict that, but like I said, he's going to rely on those big plays. Let's see if he can do it. I think the Seahawks get an easy win over the Falcons. Keep in mind that Matt Ryan is hurt, but he might be good to go. He is questionable. I honestly don't know if he's going to play or not. This video is sponsored by Prolytics. Prolytics gives extremely accurate projections to help you win in DFS. On top of all the other tools they offer, one of the reasons I really like Prolytics is because they have the ceiling and floor projections. I really love that. They also have a weekly cheat sheet to keep things stupid, simple, just give you the top picks for DFS, the players to target. They also weed out all the insignificant data, and their AI technologies are constantly learning, crunching the data that really matters, which in turn increases your chances of winning. The site offers tons of tools, including analytics, lineup optimizers, DFS picks, weekly NFL pick'ems if you're into the survivor elimination type of games, and much more. For week 8 only, I've convinced them to give us a completely free 2-week trial. That's right, it's completely free, so you can try it out and see if you like it for yourself. So follow the link below in the description and use promo code COUCH for a free trial. I've been using them for a few weeks and I highly recommend it. Again, just follow the link below in the description and use promo code COUCH to try it out for free. Now back to the picks. And then you got Deshaun Watson, who is a little bit, I'd say, riskier, but that's kind of good if you're playing GPP. It could be a Carlos Hyde type of game where the goal line back, Hyde, gets a lot of touchdowns, or not. It could be a lot of Deshaun Watson, and we'll get into that later, but I do like QT, I do like Stills, I do like Hopkins. I love all 3 wide receivers going against the Raiders. Raiders have a really bad defense, really bad pass defense as well, but those 2 are on everyone's radar. I'm going to go mention Josh Allen right now. He's going to be on everyone's radar as well, and we don't need to be contrarian for every position. We can be contrarian for, let's say, running back and wide receiver, but don't really need to be contrarian every week for QB, and really not as far as defenses go. And as tight ends, you just should be grateful if you have a tight end that does well. Don't really need to be contrarian at those positions. I like to have some contrarian quarterbacks, not necessarily for every week. So this week I have a couple that are not so popular, but I don't mind eating a little bit of chalk when it comes to QBs. Hopefully a Aaron Rodgers type of contrarian pick doesn't blow up like he did last week. I truly didn't see that coming. Josh Allen could have the best game of his year going against the Eagles. The Eagles are 1 game away from being in turmoil. This is their last game. Like it's a must win for the Eagles. The Bills are 5-1. And I just want to mention Drew Brees is questionable. Not a lot of people will pick him if he does play. I do like him if he does play because it'll be a bit contrarian. Same thing with Matt Ryan. He is questionable. And who do we got? Tannehill. I like him. I mean, if I'm coming up with these picks, I figure they're not too contrarian. But I do like Ryan Tannehill. You can stack him with a lot of different players, and we'll get into those of the other positions. But at only 5,100, going against the Bucks. Bucks run defense is good, pass defense is horrible, and I do see it working out that way. Derrick Henry's not a running back I'm going to be picking a lot. He does have touchdown upside, but I'm more so targeting Tannehill and this pass offense for the Titans. Derek Carr is a name that I've heard in some of my group chats and on social media, and I get it. Look, the Texans, they're probably not going to be able to defend the pass that well. Derek Carr is going to be okay. I'm just going to be fading him more than likely because he'll put up top 10 quarterback numbers. Sure, he can be good, but I need a top 4 QB. That's what I'm going for every week when it comes to DFS. Who's going to be a top 4 quarterback? And I don't see Derek Carr being better than Stafford, Allen, Watson, Wilson. I don't see that happening. Oh, I forgot to mention Stafford, one of my absolute favorites this week. I'm buying the Stafford stock. I absolutely, for 6,100 going against the Giants, mainly because Kerryon Johnson is hurt. So you're targeting a defense that's not that good in the Giants. Stafford's been playing well. I think he's the 7th best quarterback when I looked in my season-long league. So he's doing pretty good this year. And with no Kerryon Johnson and with Ty Johnson kind of being just mediocre at best, J.D. McKissic looks like the better back and an excellent pass catcher. And I'm not saying J.D. McKissic is a workhorse. He's not. But at least he's somewhat talented. Like, he's good. I don't really like what I see in Ty Johnson. Just don't see them heavily relying on Ty Johnson to run out the clock and grind it out and get that win. I'm not leaving this game in Ty Johnson's hands. I'm not letting him decide whether I win or lose. I'd rather put the ball in Matthew Stafford's hands and see what he can do. Let the quarterback go get the win. And I think that's what's going to happen. You get Matthew Stafford. You can stack him with his favorite receiver. I absolutely love him. 6,100. He'll be good. I'm starting him in my season-long leagues. Hopefully that works. Well, only in one league, but hopefully that works out. We talked about Tannehill. We talked about Carr. And just really quick, if Matt Ryan doesn't go, I do like Matt Schaub as a cheap option. They're going to need to throw the ball early and often. They're at home. Matt Schaub, I don't think he's that bad. I think the Falcons is a good fit for him, at least as a backup quarterback. And the Falcons do play early, so we'll be able to know. If I had to guess if Ryan's going to play or not, I'd say he is going to play. Let's see what happens. This is my punt, though. And if you don't consider Tannehill a punt who's $400 more expensive, Matt Schaub would be my punt, of course, if Ryan is out. For running backs, I like Chris Carson, 7,000. Didn't have a great game against the Ravens, only 10 fantasy points. But we did see a not 100% healthy Rashad Penny not even get one touch. So that does bode well as far as the workload that Carson is going to get. Don't really see any of the other Seahawk running backs eating too much into his touches. I mean, look at the carries right here. It's all in the 20s the last few games. So week 4 beyond, it's 22 carries, 27, 24, and then most recently 21 in a game that they lost and they needed to score more points. So it's really promising going against the Falcons. Falcons are really bad at pass defense, and I mean, their run defense is not that great. I see Chris Carson getting another 20 plus touches. He's going to return value. And Le'Veon Bell, 6,900. I do like this because the price is good. He just had a really bad game statistic wise. I've seen him play, and I think he did a pretty good job considering that the Jets were just not doing anything. Like, it was an easy job for the best defense to stop Le'Veon Bell, and he still did okay. 70 rush yards and one reception for 6 yards, and he did have a 20-yard catch that got called back, so he nearly got 100 scrimmage yards in that game, which was probably the worst game of the year, I guess. Well, for unless if you're counting the Dolphins games, but it was one of the worst whoopings of the year. Patriots beat the Jets 33-0, and this man still got you nearly 100 yards. Now, my trust, of course, isn't there, but what I'm expecting is that no one else trusts him either, and the ownership won't be that high for Le'Veon Bell. He's 6,900 going against the Jaguars. I wanted to talk about Edmonds and Latavius. Might be two players I fade. Both have tough matchups, and they balled out last week. So if David Johnson, I'm expecting David Johnson to be out or to be the same role, like an emergency start. So I'm pretty much, let's just assume David Johnson's out. Chase Edmonds is going to get picked a lot, and I don't love the matchup. I think he'll be okay. Like, he's involved in the pass game too, but I also think he'll be chalky. And what price is he? 6,200. And then Latavius is even cheaper. Cardinals have a decent run defense. Like, they haven't been run on that much. It's more of an up-tempo game where the opposing team just throws the ball against them. And even if Kamara is out, I don't see Latavius having such a good week. Like, both these guys balled out. They were both like incredible. Look at this, 120 rush yards. My God, 2 touchdowns. And then Chase Edmonds, same thing basically, 3 touchdowns last week. Don't see it happening 2 weeks in a row. Well, at least I'm not banking on it and just letting the other people pick them, and then we fade them and go someplace else. And we go to a guy like Tevin Coleman, priced at 5,000. Panthers D's okay, but Tevin Coleman, I think he's becoming an RB1. Like, he really is. Breida's getting less touches. Coleman is just the guy. He's the man on the Niners. Shanahan trusts him. I've been saying this, and it's proven to be true. He hasn't really balled out, so I don't think a lot of people will be picking him, and the price is pretty cheap. And then we have Carlos Hyde. He recently had a good game. And it wasn't last week, though, so that helps as far as ownership goes. I really do like Carlos Hyde this week. We've seen him against the Chiefs, 26 carries, 22 fantasy points. That's pretty nasty usage right there. And then against the Colts have a much better defense, especially now that Darius Leonard's back. I mean, their pass defense is okay, but their run defense their defense seemed well last week, and I just don't think the Raiders have that caliber of defense against the Texans. And of course, we expect the Texans to win. It actually might be a high-scoring, close game. Carlos Hyde is the goal line back. My main worry with Hyde is he doesn't get a lot of targets. He's not involved in the pass game, and we don't like that. That is a knock, but the price is factored into that. 4,700, you're not paying too much. You're hoping for touchdowns. That's what you're hoping for. Goal line back. He's got to get touchdowns. That's what we want. If he doesn't get that, he won't be a good pick. He's going to be touchdown reliant this game. That's pretty much how it goes. And then I'm doing it again just for DFS. So for season long, I'm telling most people to bench him. But for 4,400, going against the Chargers, his floor is 0. Let's just say 0. He has no floor, David Montgomery, but he does have some potential. No one's going to be picking him. This game is going to be messy. I don't know what's going to happen, who's going to win. I just know that it's probably not going to be super high scoring, and there's probably going to be a lot of wacky things happening. Some interceptions, some fumbles. So, I mean, we're talking about the Chargers Bears here. Something bad's going to happen this game. Something messy. And if we're lucky, it'll happen to the Chargers, and David Montgomery will be able to punch in 2 touchdowns. Don't bank on it. Don't have him in a lot of lineups. I'm going to pick him in at least one lineup. I'm going to do it. And only really GPP, guys. And then for 4,000, so that's how cheap Montgomery is, though. 4,400, that's super cheap. I don't think he'll be highly owned. I mean, do you blame him? What did he do? 2 carries last week? 2 carries, 2 receptions, and a fumble lost. 2.9 fantasy points. Okay. My God, that is not good. 6 rushing yards. Okay. I don't think he'll be highly owned. For 4,000, we have Darrell Henderson. This is a really good one. Pretty much the same boat. I think he's going to be contrarian. Todd Gurley's good to go. He'll get his. He'll probably be good, but they're trying to preserve Todd Gurley. That's what I'm seeing. And Malcolm Brown is out. Look here, 11 carries last game against the Falcons, 1 reception. That's quite a bit. It's not like Todd Gurley, those 25 carries, 30 touches, those type of numbers are long gone for Gurley. They're not going to give that to him anymore. And we have a similar type of situation here. Falcons, they sucked, right? Rams beat them. Bengals, they suck now, and the Rams are facing the Bengals this week. So similar type of situation. Malcolm Brown out. Darrell Henderson's getting more acclimated with the offense. He's getting more comfortable. He'll get his. He'll get a lot of snaps. He'll get a lot of touches, and all he has to do is break one of those big runs, which he's done a lot in college. Get you one big play, and he'll be great. For 4,000, that's going to definitely work out. So you're banking on the big play. We'll know he'll get his touches. Let's see what happens. Now, I know this is like a hype Darrell Henderson hype session, whatnot. But in GPP, I think he does deserve this hype. Super cheap, and one of the cheap ones that I actually like Not too many other super cheap options. And then we have a JD McKissick for 3,900. Really not too sold on him. Don't really know what's going on with the Lions. All I know is that I'm a fan. I liked when he had 1 or 2 good games for the Seahawks. What was that? 2 years ago? I liked him. He's fast. He can catch the ball. He's quick. Defenders have a tough time getting to him. Now he is small. I seen him tweet that he was 198 pounds. I'll take his word for it. I mean, that's really it I got on him. I guess it's more of a dart, not someone I'm going to trust, but 3,900 is cheap, and we play PPR. For wide receivers, lots of options, and I'm not really scared to say, like, all right, Hopkins is good, whatever. Let's move on to some other players that are just a little bit less obvious, and that's going to be Tyler Lockett at 7,000. That's the perfect stack with Russell Wilson, and you could also rotate in a DK Metcalf if you want, but Lockett should get plenty of targets. Russell Wilson runs around. He'll find Lockett wide open, I'm sure, on a few plays. That's his favorite receiver. Then we have Kenny Golladay, who's $600 cheaper than Lockett, going against the Giants. Absolutely love him. He's had some big games, and this is isn't this mean GPP right here, guys? Look at these. Let me just read you some of this. Week 2, 28 fantasy points. Next week, 4 fantasy points. 24 fantasy points. 20 fantasy points. 3 fantasy points. That screams GPP to me. Going against the Giants. Love it. Similar to Golladay, we have DJ Chark at 6,000. Didn't have a good game last or even the week before, actually. So I didn't think he'd do well against the Saints. I thought he'd bounce back against the Bengals, and he did okay. He didn't really do that well. So against the Saints, he really did bad. 7 fantasy points week 6. Then week 7 against the Bengals, 10 fantasy points. He has a good matchup this week against the Jets. I mean, the Jets aren't horrible defense or anything, but I think DJ Chark's talented enough to do some damage. Let's run through some of these other picks. Calvin Ridley for 5,600 going against the Seahawks. I like him even if Matt Schaub is there. I think if Matt Schaub's playing, he'll be even less owned. He'll get plenty of targets. And we have Cortland Sutton, who is priced way too low. The Emmanuel Sanders trade was not factored in yet, so only 5,300. This man's going to be getting a lot of targets. Look at here. 9 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets. And then before that, 7 targets, 8 targets. So minimum of 7 targets per game. All 7 games. That's really good. He's been really consistent. He has that big frame so he can get you touchdowns too. Been getting fantasy points. And I guess we like players with more upside, but I mean, he's so cheap and so good. Like, you know, just pick the good play. Sometimes you just pick the good players and the cheap players. Only reason you don't want to pick him is because he will be a little bit chalky with that very attractive price point, 5,300 going against the Colts. Don't think the Colts have that good of a pass defense. And we have a Kenny Stills, very obvious one right here, 4,700 going against the Raiders. Kenny Stills has actually been better than I thought. I honestly didn't think he was that good of a wide receiver, but we've seen it was because he was on the Dolphins. He was okay on the Saints for, was that 1 year? Was that 1 or 2 years with Drew Brees? He was good. And now he's good again with the Texans, with Deshaun Watson. I guess being on a good team, good offense with a good quarterback does matter. And man, Will Fuller is out. Kenny Stills, 4,700, super cheap. Raiders are not good. And for Titans wide receivers, so I was like, Corey Davis is the guy, but this is what's been going on every week. Is like, all right, it's Adam Humphries, it's AJ Brown. He's he could be very good. Oh, it's Corey Davis. Truth is, like, these guys have been rotating. Like every week, it's someone different. Wasn't it 1 week? Was it like Tajay Sharp or not? Some other wide receiver? So every week, it's a different wide receiver, and I do like Corey Davis, 4,400, great matchup, but I think he'll be the one that's owned more. What do you think? 4,400? Yeah, I think we pivot and go more for the AJ Brown hype. 4,100. I looked at the snap counts and the targets, And he's not that far behind. I think he has big play potential, can get you touchdowns. I do like A.J. Brown because a lot of people will be on Corey Davis. And just basically, these Titans wide receivers are unpredictable. Like, we don't know which one's going to do well. Maybe Tannehill spreads the ball. Let's see what happens. I do have some faith in the Titans' pass offense just because the Bucs are so bad at pass coverage. And I do have a few super cheap guys, all priced at $3,300, and that is Keelan Doss. Right? This is a similar situation to the Titans, what I've been talking about. Like, which Raiders receiver is going to do well? Of course, Darren Waller's there. Maybe some people are on Foster Moreau as well. But those are tight ends. But as far as wide receivers, we've been playing kind of receiver roulette. And I think Keelan Doss is the man. Looking at Hunter Renfro's stats, he's just like, throw it to him as a 3-yard pass. He'll get you 3 fantasy points. He's been doing that very consistently. And so who's the guy who can get us big numbers? And I think that's Keelan Doss. I think he'll play a lot of snaps. He'll get more targets. If the Texans are smart, they'll probably try to take away Darren Waller. Not saying that's going to happen. It's probably not. But I'm just trying to figure out which Raiders receiver is going to be not so much owned, is going to be kind of a sleeper. They all should be because they all haven't done anything. Last week it was Davis. I think I'm going with Keelan Doss this week. 3,300. He should get a lot of targets. I think the Texans will try to stop Josh Jacobs, who's questionable. Terrell Williams, I don't expect to play. And so Keelan Doss gets a huge boost. I see him getting at least 7 targets. Then we have, I didn't really want to mention this guy. I guess Demaryius Thomas. I didn't really want to mention him. Nah. He's more of a rotational piece that I may or may not have. And then we have Deshaun Hamilton. I like him a lot, and I don't know, like, to me seems like an obvious pick, but when I see these cheap punts that like haven't done much recently, they're not that obvious. So I don't think he'll be highly owned, even though he should be. He's worth a dart. He's been really bad this year, but I loved him last year. I drafted him in a couple season long leagues. I thought he would be good. And I was like, he could be the number 1 wide receiver with Sanders injured. Sanders recovered, and Courtland Sutton took off, and Deshaun Hamilton regressed. Like, he hasn't been that good. But he'll start. He'll get a lot of targets, a lot of snaps. And who are they going to concentrate on? Noah Fant is trash. Courtland Sutton's the guy in the pass game. So the defense might try to shut down Courtland Sutton, double team him, get no big plays out of Courtland, and then Deshaun Hamilton will likely get the best of matchups. Now, I don't know if he'll do well, but it is a dart, 3,300 going against the Colts. Keep in mind, Joe Flacco's throwing him the ball. And then I didn't really want to mention him, but I do have Kendrick Bourne again. I don't know. I gave myself a small pat on the back just because he's getting more targets. Deebo Samuel, I believe, is questionable. And Kyle Shanahan just said that Emmanuel Sanders is going to see the field a lot. So keep that in mind. I wanted to rank my top 5 tight ends. And this is in terms of fantasy points and who I would pick the most. And number 1 is George Kittle. Actually, this is in terms of just straight projections. I love George Kittle. I think he'll be the best tight end this week. It's tough to predict, but his price is kind of high. I do see a bit of a contrarian pick with Kittle because everyone's going to be, look, Waller was in the millionaire lineups. Hooper a couple weeks ago was a millionaire lineup. Evan Ingram did well a few weeks ago. Hunter Henry's been doing well. So I think Kittle won't be as highly owned. His price is a little bit too expensive. So that's one reason I do like him. Number 2, I have Darren Waller. He'll get a ton of targets, man. Look at this. 14 targets week 3. He balled out, my God. And this man hasn't got any touchdowns except for this previous week. Wow, these targets are just insane. He's had, what, 1 bad game against the Bears? And that's not even that bad. God, yeah. That's my number 2 tight end. Number 3, I'm going with Hunter Henry because I just don't think Mike Williams is that great. Like, he's okay, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's enough to carry the team. Keenan Allen is injured, and I just got word that even if he plays, he'll be limited, and so he might not even play. So he's questionable. He might not play, and this may have been an injury that's been lingering because Keenan Allen hasn't been that good the last few weeks. Hunter Henry should see a ton of targets. Look, he's been getting targeted a lot this year. Week 6 against Steelers, 9 targets. Week 7 against the Titans, 8 targets. And he's done very well. If he gets in the end zone, he's going to return value, $4,900. Price isn't too expensive. Then we have Austin Hooper, who's always been balling this year. Yeah, he's just a baller this year, man. Then we have Evan Ingram, whose floor is kind of low. And people that play fantasy might get a little emotional because, I thought he was going to ball out against the Cardinals. And what does he do? 1 reception, 6 yards, 1.6 fantasy points. So that's why I like him. I feel like people will be off of him. People got their feelings hurt and won't pick Ingram as much this week. I do have some sleepers for you guys, and that is Dawson Knox at 2,900. Zero trust in him, but come on, he's playing the Eagles. That team is a mess right now. And people are on this Darren Fells hype train. I'm going with the Jordan Akins hype train, 2,800. I think he's a better receiver, tight end for the Texans. Might be able to sneak in, get you a touchdown, maybe a big play. He's going against the Raiders after all. And Tyler Eifert, no one's going to be picking this guy. I'll tell you that right now. But he is the pass-catching tight end for the Bengals. This game could be a little bit closer than we think. The Bengals might score. Then again, they might get destroyed. But I do know they will have to throw the ball. Again, these are more just contrarian punts. Now, there's some more obvious and good picks. Like those Akins and Eifert, I don't trust at all. But if you did want to switch it up, let's say you ate chalk at all the other positions, and go get you a contrarian tight end like one of those guys. Jonnu Smith. Now, that's more of an obvious pick. Great matchup. Delaney Walker is out. He did okay week 7. 3 targets, 3 receptions. I do like that. 2,800. That is very cheap. And then even cheaper, I like this guy just as much. Cameron Brate. 2,700 in the same game going against the Titans. We know that the Bucs will throw the ball. That's all Jameis Winston does. And if Jameis Winston doesn't throw 4, 5, 6 interceptions, maybe Brate will get a touchdown. Now, people say the Bucs don't use the tight end that well, blah, blah, blah. But O.J. Howard is out. And Cameron Brate's a decent pass-catching tight end. We've seen Jameis Winston and Brate connect. They're desperate for a third option in the pass game, and I'm pretty confident that's going to be Brate. It's going to be Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and then Cameron Brate. Plus, he's super cheap. Let's see what he's going to do. And those are all the tight ends. Defenses are much more simple this week. I like the Patriots, 4,300 going against the Browns. Could be a disaster for Cleveland. I like the Bears. I'm going back on it. Like, I don't care. I'm doing it again. I like the Bears. Chargers are banged up beyond belief. Everyone's like, what are we doing? Is this a good team? Is this a bad team? Like, they're a mess. I seen Phillip Rivers on the waiver wire in just about every league or on the bench. No one's starting him. It's pretty bad, and with this Keenan Allen news, I think the line shifted even more. Bears were favored to win by 1.5. Now they're favored to win by 3.5. It's not looking good. Could be a messy game. Could be a low-scoring game. And I love the Patriots D, but if you did need to get an option that's a little bit cheaper, you can go with the Bears. They are priced $700 cheaper than the Patriots. Then we have the Bills for $3,000. Nothing more than a rotational piece if you needed it. And for punts, we have the Panthers. Actually, that's the Cardinals. Wrong team. Panthers priced at $2,400. Teams going against the 49ers. 49ers haven't put up a ton of points. Their offense hasn't. So defenses going against the Niners have been okay. Last week, Washington defense scored decent amount of points, and I think they were in the millionaire maker. And we have in that same game against the Bears, the Chargers for $2,300. I'm banking on a lot of sloppy things to happen and bad things to happen and the Bears to capitalize. But then again, we've seen the Bears play, and it could go the other way, and the Chargers may be able to capitalize off these mistakes. Let's see what happens. But in a low-scoring game, $2,300, and we've seen Trubisky and Montgomery play, this price is very, very cheap, and it's not even so much because the Chargers D's good or anything like that. It's just because a team is going up against the Bears, and they're just super cheap. I don't get why the price is this low. I don't know. I mean, Yeah, it's pretty cheap. I mean, I don't have big hopes for them, but then again, defenses are tough to predict and they're a good punt. Shout out to our new Patreons, Vince and Keith. Thank you guys for supporting the couch. Make sure you guys follow the link below in the description to check out Prolytics. Use promo code COUCH. The first 50 people to use that promo code will get a free 2-week trial. Again, it's only for the first 50 people, so make sure you check out Prolytics and use promo code COUCH. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. We also have a second YouTube channel, Fantasy Couch Podcast. Subscribe to that as well. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Dislike if you didn't. I wish you good luck in DFS for week 8. Let's get it.